Check. There we go. Just a reminder to please mute your cell phones before we get started here. Appreciate it. Next up is UNC Asheville. The Bulldogs were 19-14 overall. They were 9-9 in the Big South Conference. They are the number 16 seed in the Stockton Regional. They are the Big South Tournament champions. They won 4 games in 4 days last weekend, so congratulations to them. And again, we'll open with a short statement from the head coach, Brendan Kirkpatrick. Then we'll hear from student athletes Shatori Major and KJ Weaver. And then we'll dismiss the student athletes and open up questions then for the coach. So, Coach Kirkpatrick.
Thank you, Steve. First of all, just super excited to be here. Thank you to the NCAA and University of South Carolina for making this a first-class experience so far. And obviously, last weekend was a very special moment for these young ladies beside me, their teammates, and UNC Asheville. Winning 4 games in 4 days really was the epitome of kind of how our entire season has gone, overcoming some adversity early on in the season, and then really playing our best brand of basketball late February and into March, which was one of our goals. When we were going through some of that adversity in December and January, was to pick ourselves back up and be able to be playing well going into the conference tournament. So we're obviously excited to be here and putting together a game plan for a very, very good South Carolina team. But this is a great opportunity for these young ladies, and we're looking forward to it.
Questions for the student athletes, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. Josh, go ahead.
For both or either, whoever wants to take it. Asia Wilson, what is the biggest problem that she poses for an opponent?
I mean, since I'm probably going to be playing defense against her, she's really big, really tall, taller than most players in the Big South. So I think her height has a lot to do with how she's getting the ball. We're going to try and make it as tough as possible for her to get the ball, especially because her shooting percentage is so good. And I think boxing her out so she can't get O boards is a really big deal for this game.
What do you do to combat that, her height, beyond trying to keep her away from the basket as much as you can?
Just trying to have quicker feet. Quicker feet sometimes helps when there's somebody bigger than you. So hopefully I can move around her fast enough so that she hopefully doesn't get the ball even though she's 5 inches taller than me.
Jeffrey.
For either of you, I think I glanced through real quick. Maybe the biggest crowd y'all played in front of was about 2,000 people this year. What do you think it's going to be like tomorrow night when there's about 10, 12,000 out there?
Shatori, you want to take that?
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Can you ask the question one more time? I lost track.
Typically, I think the biggest crowd I saw through there was about 2,000, but there'll probably be 10 or 12,000 mostly South Carolina fans out there. How do you get ready for that and adjust for that? And is it something you look forward to in a way?
It's definitely something I look forward to. I'm very excited about the atmosphere we're about to play in. We kind of tried to simulate it during practice, but nothing can simulate the environment that South Carolina has, their fans and stuff. But we're excited for it, and we're ready for it.
When you simulated it, did you just have noise piped in or something like that?
Yes, we did. We actually kind of put it over the intercom in our gym, and we raised the volume up as high as it could go. And that's how we tried to prepare for it.
And KJ, I'll ask you this one. How do you keep yourself from getting lost in the moment when you come out? How do you keep focused on what you're supposed to do instead of be in awe of what your surroundings are?
I think one thing that we've focused on coming into this game is focusing on all the little things that we want to do as a team. So no matter what the score is, as long as we're doing what we set out to do, we're going to be just fine, and just really focusing on each other and keeping on focusing on just us. What can we do to improve each day,
Rick.
The fact that Elena Coates is going to be out for the tournament, is that going to allow you maybe to be able to focus a little more attention on Wilson?
I would say so, yes.
So does it make this challenge of facing the Gamecocks maybe a little less intimidating?
I think it prepares us with a better matchup. I'm not saying that it's less intimidating, but I think with 4 guards in one post for most of the time, it'll be a little bit more helpful to us.
Right.
rather than playing somebody two bigs that are over 6 foot.
Brian?
For both of you, how does this year feel different as you come to this tournament since you were in last year's tournaments?
I'll answer first, and I'm sure Tori will answer next. I think compared to last year, it was our first time going for both of us, and the fact that we got a 14 seed was like amazing. We were just enjoying the ride. I know a lot of people were nervous, and we kind of showed it when we were on the court. For this year, I think since this is the second year we're going in a row, we weren't really expecting, we were expecting to win the Big South Championship, but nobody else probably thought we could have done it. And this year we're coming in as a 16 seed against the number 1 seed. So I think this gives us an opportunity to not be so swayed by everything that's going on around us, giving us an opportunity to show the world that we can focus on what we're doing and improve on what we're doing no matter who we're playing against.
And just going off what KJ said, the fact that we did come here last year, we feel a little bit more prepared. Like, we kind of know what to expect. It's an SEC team. The pace is going to be fast and things like that. But we've been here before. 12 of us have been here before, and 2 new ones. But we kind of know what to expect, kind of not. This is South Carolina, not Kentucky. But they're both very good teams.
Any other questions for the student athletes? Jeffrey?
If I say Stanford against Harvard, does that mean anything to y'all?
Coach Mock has talked to us about it, how that was an historic moment, and it's always a possibility for another historic moment. And so that's what we're striving for. It's not going to be easy, but yes, we definitely know about that game.
Anything else for student athletes? All right, you guys can go. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. Good job. You did well. Oh.
An injury go
Yeah,
on.
we don't need an
that.
injury to Shatori going down the stairs, no.
Questions for Coach Monk? Josh?
A version of the Asia Wilson question. As you scout her, what is the scariest thing about what she does?
Well, I mean, she's the best post player in the nation. You're trying to take away a couple of things. The and ones, trying to keep her off the free throw line, boxing her out. I know that sounds easier said than done, but boxing her out, pushing her away from the basket, and keeping her from getting the offensive rebounds. So those are 2 things. She's going to make some spectacular moves. The thing that makes her difficult to guard is that she's got a little bit of a face-up game. She's got a turnaround jumper. She's got back to the basket moves. She runs the floor. Need I go on? I mean, how about scoring against her? That's going to be just as difficult. How are we going to manufacture points, in the paint? Because KJ and we have another post player, we go to them often, and so now we're having to also alter our offensive game plan around her. And obviously they've got other great players. She's a key piece. We are going to try to strategically game plan for that, in terms of helping onto her. I don't want to show all of our cards here, but we'll do the best we can and make adjustments where we can. So sometimes you have to play the percentages. You definitely want to take her away. If South Carolina's hitting threes and they've got their inside and outside game going, they're tough, and that's why they, even without Elena Coates, won 3 games in 3 days and won the SEC championship. So they've proven that they can win with the lineup they have just fine.
Ben?
Just how do you kind of describe the style and identity of your team?
Mm-hmm. Sure. In terms of our style of play, that has changed this year. We were very guard oriented. A year ago at Kentucky, we were 4 guards, 1 post. We had a 3-point shooting 4 player that got off a lot of threes in that tournament game. She didn't hit them, but she got a lot of threes off. Run the floor, very up-tempo, and I think we led the league in scoring last year. That was what we were aiming to do at the beginning of this year, but we've had several injuries. We had 3 ACL tears this year, and then had some other minor things that have adjusted our lineup, and so we don't have the firepower offensively, and we can't press any longer. So we're a combination of go and what I call gold. we're going to go and try to push tempo when we can off of our opponent's misses. But the kids know when I say gold, we're going to take the air out of the ball. And I thought we did a great job of balancing the two of those in the Big South Conference Championship last week. I think we scored 65 points on 44 shots against Campbell, our second-round opponent, who was second in the league, by having a nice balance of that. So that's what we'll try to do tomorrow if we can. I think that shot selection is huge. Dead ball turnovers versus live ball turnovers against South Carolina. We want to be smart, but I do have, in the Big South, I do have some more of the athletic play in the conference. Against South Carolina, that's not going to be our advantage.
Brian.
Much of the same thing that I asked them. Couple that with what y'all were able to do through the tournament, plus the knowledge that you were here last year. How much does that make you, give that confidence and just the leadership that you have? Does it make it a little easier this time around in that regard, regardless of the opponent?
Sure, the opponent's not easier. That's a given. However, anything in life, when you've had that experience, that's going to give you confidence and familiarity. I mean, we're a little bit more comfortable with it. We know what to expect, just like down to those kids knowing they're going to come to the press conference today and the kinds of questions they may get and things like that. Everything's not so overwhelming, and the pace of play. Shatori referenced it. At Kentucky, we tried to simulate that coming into that week, but in the first quarter, Kentucky really set a tone, which is, I'm sure, what South Carolina will do, because they do that with everybody they play. Set a tone early in the game and play fast and furious and physical. And that took us off guard. It's easier to try to prepare for something than actually go through it. And so that experience is absolutely helpful. And just having 4 seniors on the team, albeit 2 of them are out with the ACL injuries, and that's really, that's affected us, obviously. But having 12 returners who have been to the NCAA tournament and had that experience is so helpful. And it's helpful to me as a head coach. I'm framing this a little bit different. Just like KJ said, we've got to set out, we have to have our goals, and we need to celebrate those goals no matter what the circumstance is in the game, whether it's a tight game or it's not. We've got to make sure that our bench is really focused on those things, and that we're celebrating the small victories within the grand scheme of things. If not, we can lose focus, and we're not going to be able to put our best brand of basketball out there. And that's really the goal. We want to put our best foot forward and continue to build on the momentum that we obtained in the Big South Conference Championship.
Jeffrey?
What changed in the middle of February? I mean, y'all had a very rough stretch January, early February, and now, 8 out of the last 9? What changed? How were y'all able to kind of rescue what looked like it was going to be a lost season?
Sure. Well, going through some of that adversity, some of that was because of the injuries, and some of it was self-imposed. It was our mentality and how we were responding to the adversity. And I think what changed, if I can point to one thing, it's Shatori Major deciding to expand her role from a scoring player and somebody that could put points on the board and shoot a lot of threes to a leader on and off the court. After our Charleston Southern loss, and I can't remember the exact date, but it was during, I think, a 4-game losing streak that we had, I spoke to the team I was pretty forward with the team after that game. There's some things that need to change here, and she raised her hand after I spoke in the locker room, and she said, "Coach Mock, I want to say something." And she spoke to her teammates there, and she stepped up and she said, "This is not the way this season is going to go." She was very determined. I've never seen that resolve in Shatori, because Shatori, as you can see, she sort of defers. She's not a natural leader, but she stepped up in that moment, and all of the attention was on her. And I couldn't have been more grateful to her for stepping up and saying that. And I tell you, it changed the trajectory of our season. That would be the lead moment. There's also little things going on within that. And I would say this, just in terms of the basketball piece, it did take us a little bit to adjust to the new lineup that we had. We had to reframe things. So when we lost Tiana Knuckles, who, to give you some perspective, has more points in her career still than Shatori Major. And Shatori Major was preseason Big South Player of the Year. She was Player of the Year in our conference last year. And we were missing a kid this year that has still more points than her in our lineup. But we had to reframe. So midway through the season, the Gardner-Webb game, we were talking about, let's just stick to the intangibles. Let's play hard and for each other. But I think we stuck to that stuck to that too long. We needed to reframe and reset our goals. By the time we, because we got used to that lineup that we had, and we knew that what we had was enough. So I think it was also reframing and adjusting our expectations. I had to dumb it down for our team after we lost Tiana and Jada because it was super emotional. You lose 2 seniors out of that. We called them the Fab Four. Those 4 seniors were my first recruiting class as a head coach. They have turned a program around. I mean, we went from my first year, we were 2-28 with no Division I wins. And that was the class that chose to come here and play for UNC Asheville when it was abysmal. It wasn't looking very good. And then, we progressed to their junior year winning a championship, and then coming into the senior year, high expectations, and then we hit some adversity. It doesn't go their way. So, but I think reframing that for them and Shatori's leadership during that time is what really helped our team. I know that was a long-winded answer, but you've got plenty of information on that, right?
Ben?
Just how different is it preparing for the South Carolina team without Coates? And from a coach's perspective, how different did they look without her?
Well, let me tell you this. In scouting them, I did look at some of their, I looked at the Missouri game in particular. I was interested in that. We're not like Missouri, but I thought they did a good job defensively on them, and they had Elena. And then I thought, and I told the staff this, I need to really focus on the SEC tournament because they don't have her. And once we found that out, I believe that was Tuesday morning, Brian let us know, they don't have her, so let's see what they're doing without her, and let's try to adjust to that. So I didn't watch 4 or 5 games with Elaine, other than as a fan of the SEC, because I coached at Florida. I love SEC women's basketball. I was an assistant coach at Florida for 5 years prior to coming to UNC Asheville. So other than from a fan's perspective, I wasn't watching them with her a ton. It seems they've adjusted well, and they've also had 2 weeks, to adjust to that. They're going to play, we know that they're going to play Harrigan, Kiki, I believe they call her. They're going to play Kiki and Asia together, but then they're also going to go with more of a 4-guard Asia lineup or a 4-guard Kiki lineup as well. They'll have to, I'm sure. And so we're prepared for both, because I really like Kiki's game as well. And when they're in together, I mean, that's still a dual threat, albeit I know it's not Coates, but she's going to be a great player for South Carolina. She really is. If you look at her stats from just the tournament versus her stats in the season, you can already see she's stepping into a much greater role. And I pointed that out to the kids. Her season stats are a little bit deceiving. So I think that, they'll run those 2 together. I know they did against, I believe, Georgia and Kentucky, and then they started a different lineup against Mississippi State, which is, they're a little bit different, in terms of what Mississippi State does on defense. So I think they'll be okay. I mean, they need to, stay out of foul trouble. I'm sure she's going to make some adjustments offensively to take advantage of her guard play and take a little pressure off of Asia, too. And, if Kayla Davis is playing well, Alicia Gray is playing well, I think they're going to be okay with that 4-guard lineup. But I know she'd love to have the depth. I mean, everybody would. Everybody loves the depth. It really does put pressure on the kids that are out there to do their jobs exceptionally.
Rick?
Is it a personal challenge for you to go against a coach like Don Staley, someone who's a Hall of Famer as a player, has had great success as a head coach, and is also now the head coach for Team USA?
Right. A personal challenge, I don't know if I look at it as a personal challenge more than just a blessing and an opportunity. I mean, she is, like you said, all of those things. I mean, Hall of Fame player, an outstanding coach. I was at UNC Charlotte when she was at Temple, and just to watch what she did, having no assistant coaching experience, coming in and revamping that program there, and what she's done at South Carolina, because I got to watch her do that. My first year at Florida, she was not the head coach here, but her first 4 years, we saw how she was putting, work into this program and really changing the culture, and now you are where you are, here at South Carolina, and of course she has a great staff, and there's other people involved, but that's a lot of Dawn. So it's just a great opportunity. I feel very blessed to be able to be across the sideline from her. And sure, it's always a challenge. I mean, anybody for us playing in the NCAA tournament tomorrow would be a challenge. For me, you're always looking at it like that. And so we want to coach and game plan and scout and put our best game plan out there. But, it's an opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it.
Any other questions for Coach Monk? All right.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, guys.